The baby wouldn't stop crying, and the woman's trembling voice cut through the night air. "Please don't take my baby." The words spilled out as if her very soul was slipping away. She was barefoot on the cold pavement, a thin blanket wrapped around her newborn, her hair tangled from the rain. Beside her, a stroller leaned crookedly, one wheel duct-taped in place, the other squeaking whenever she moved it. People passed by, pulling their coats tighter, pretending not to hear, but one man stopped. A man who had everything: custom suit, polished leather shoes, phone buzzing with messages from boardrooms, and he couldn't take another step forward. Ethan Carter, the millionaire single dad who ran one of the city's most powerful tech companies, wasn't in the habit of stopping for strangers. His time was planned down to the minute, yet tonight, something in her cracked voice pinned him to the sidewalk. He crouched, meeting her glassy brown eyes. "What happened?" he asked, his voice low but steady. She clutched the baby closer, lips trembling, cheeks blotched from the cold. "They want to take her away, the shelter says. If I can't prove I've got a place to stay, they'll call child services. Please, I'll do anything." Her name was Marissa. The lines of exhaustion carved into her face made her look older than she was. But when she brushed damp hair from her cheek, her beauty was undeniable, fragile but striking, as if life's hardships had sharpened rather than dulled her features. She wore jeans that had frayed at the knees, and her sneakers, soaked through from the rain, revealed toes peeking out from small holes. Her baby girl squirmed, face pink with hunger. A plastic bottle, half empty, sat in the stroller's pocket. Ethan felt a pull in his chest he hadn't felt since his own son, Oliver, was born. He was only 7, but Ethan still remembered the nights pacing the nursery floor, rocking a crying infant in his arms. He remembered his late wife's tired but radiant smile as she whispered, "She needs us, Ethan, always us." The memory clamped tight on his throat. "Do you have anywhere to go tonight?" he asked. Marissa's answer was a broken whisper. "I was at the shelter, but the bunks are full. I tried the church, but they told me to come back tomorrow. I don't have bus fare left to get across town." She glanced at her pocket, pulling out a few coins, nickels and pennies, that rattled in her palm. The reek of damp cardboard and city grime clung to the air. Behind them, neon from a 24-hour diner blinked, casting her face in pale blue light. Ethan could have turned, could have walked into warmth and coffee, but the sight of her coins, the way her fingers trembled around them, burned him inside. He straightened and gestured toward the diner. "Come inside, let's get you warm." Marissa hesitated, suspicion flickering in her eyes. She'd been approached before, men with quick promises and dangerous smiles, but something about his calm presence, the way he kept a careful distance, loosened her shoulders. She followed him into the diner. The warmth hit like a wave, steam rising from mugs, clatter of dishes, a jukebox humming in the corner. At once, the contrast struck her, her damp clothes against the leather booths, her duct-taped stroller wheels squeaking against the clean tiled floor. They slid into a booth, and Ethan waved a waitress over. "Hot chocolate, and something to eat," he said, not looking at the menu. Marissa's lips parted as though she wanted to protest, but the baby's cry drowned her out. The waitress returned with steaming mugs and plates piled with scrambled eggs and toast. Marissa whispered, "Thank you," her voice so small it nearly broke him. She ate cautiously at first, then faster, her hunger betraying her. The baby, finally fed, quieted, her small chest rising and falling against Marissa's shoulder. At the 7-minute mark, Ethan's phone buzzed. His assistant's name flashed on screen. Another meeting, another demand. He silenced it without answering. Marissa noticed. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. Her fingers traced the rim of her mug. "I'm not asking for anything. I just don't want to lose her." She pressed her cheek against the baby's head. Tears welled but didn't fall. Ethan leaned forward. "You said they might take her." She nodded, voice breaking. "Tomorrow, if I can't prove I have a stable place." She gave a nervous laugh, bitter and sharp. "Stable? I don't even have enough for diapers." Her eyes darted to the window, where rain streaked the glass. Ethan's gaze followed hers, the reflection of her weary face etched beside his own in the pain. He thought of Oliver asleep at home, the safety of his townhouse, the shelves of toys waiting to be played with. And he thought of this woman, clutching coins, clutching her baby, running out of tomorrows. His chest tightened. He had promised himself after his wife's death he wouldn't get entangled again. Life was complicated enough with a company to run and a son to raise. But looking at Marissa, he knew walking away wasn't an option. The baby stirred, whimpering. Marissa whispered, "SHH, sweetheart, Mama's here," though her voice trembled with doubt. Ethan's hand gripped his coffee cup, knuckles white. He was about to say something when the diner door opened, and two men in uniforms stepped inside, security from the shelter, looking around as though searching for someone. Marissa froze, her entire body tensing. Her eyes widened in panic. "They're here for me," she whispered. "Please, don't let them take her." The words sliced through the air, raw and desperate. Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears as he realized the night wasn't about to end. It was only beginning. Ethan's first instinct was to stand and shield her, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help her now. The baby stirred again, letting out a small cry that made Marissa's body tighten even more. She whispered, "Please don't let them see us," her fingers gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles turned white. The men scanned the booths, their radios crackling faintly. One of them spoke to the waitress, who pointed toward the back, not toward Ethan and Marissa. He exhaled slowly, keeping his voice steady. "They're not here for you, not yet. Just breathe." He leaned in, his tone low but firm. "You need somewhere safe for tonight, somewhere they can't just take her away because you're on the street." Marissa's lips trembled. "There's nowhere. I've tried every list, every office. They just hand me forms. Forms don't feed a baby." She held the child tighter, burying her face against the small blanket. Her hair, damp from the rain, clung to her jawline, framing her in a fragile, cinematic silhouette wet against the neon-lit window. Ethan thought of his own townhouse, the sprawling kitchen with a fridge that never ran empty, the guest room that sat unused, the rows of Oliver's toys that collected dust because one child couldn't play with them all. He swallowed hard. This wasn't just about charity. It was about choosing whether he'd step into the storm of someone else's life. "Come with me," he said finally. The words startled even him. Marissa's eyes snapped to his, wide with disbelief. "What, I can't just—" "You can." Ethan cut in, his voice steady but softer now. "One night, no strings, just somewhere warm, with a crib and food. Then tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." Her throat worked as she tried to form a reply. Trust was not something she handed out anymore, but the baby whimpered again, small fists reaching upward, and something in her broke. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. The drive was quiet. The wipers beat back the drizzle as city lights blurred across the windshield. Marissa sat in the back with the baby, whispering lullabies, her voice hoarse but gentle. Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror more than once, catching glimpses of her tired face, the determination etched there despite her exhaustion. When they pulled up to his townhouse, the contrast was almost unbearable. The sleek stone facade glowed under warm porch lights. The manicured hedges glistened with raindrops. Marissa froze on the sidewalk, clutching the baby, staring at the home as though it were a world she had no right to step into. Ethan came around, opening the door. "It's just a house," he said quietly. "Come inside." The warmth enveloped her the moment she crossed the threshold. The living room smelled faintly of cedar and fresh linen. Toys were scattered in one corner. Cars, blocks, a stuffed dinosaur, evidence of Oliver's small kingdom. Marissa's eyes flickered over it all, and she exhaled sharply, half relief, half grief. "It's beautiful," she murmured, though her voice carried more sadness than admiration. Ethan led her to the kitchen. The fridge light spilled onto the tiled floor as he opened it, revealing rows of fresh produce, milk, leftovers in containers. Marissa's gaze lingered there, the image of her own empty fridge flashing in her mind, the single jar of mustard, the flickering bulb, the curling eviction notice on her door. She looked down quickly, ashamed of the tears welling in her eyes. "Eat," Ethan said gently, pulling out bread and fruit. "I'll set up the guest room." Upstairs, he made up the bed quickly, tugging at fresh sheets, setting a small crib he hadn't used in years beside it. Memories washed over him, his wife's laughter as she painted the nursery, Oliver's tiny body curled in that very crib. He had packed it away after she died, unable to look at it. Now, bringing it back out felt like reopening an old wound, but also, strangely, like healing. When Marissa entered the room, she stopped dead. Her lips parted, eyes filling with disbelief. You have a crib," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "It's yours tonight." She lowered the baby into it, her movements reverent, as though she were laying her child in holy space. The baby sighed and drifted into sleep almost instantly. Marissa stood over her for a long moment, then turned, her face streaked with silent tears. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice raw. Ethan held her gaze, throat tight. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone, and because no child should ever be punished for their mother's bad luck." Her lips trembled, a small sob escaping before she could stifle it. She pressed a hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking. Ethan looked away, giving her the dignity of her grief. Hours later, when the house was quiet, Ethan checked on Oliver, sleeping soundly in his own bed, then paused at the guest room door. Marissa was curled on the edge of the mattress, still in her worn jeans, one arm draped protectively toward the crib. Her face, even in sleep, was etched with tension, as though she feared waking to find it all gone. Ethan stood there, a heaviness in his chest. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, whether she would trust him enough to stay, whether the system would still come for her baby. But tonight, at least, she and her child were safe. And for the first time in years, he felt like maybe his wealth meant something more than boardrooms and numbers. The hook came the next morning. A sharp knock rattled the front door just as the sun broke through gray clouds. Ethan froze, heart lurching. Marissa jolted awake upstairs, eyes wide with fear. From the crib, the baby began to wail. The knock came again, louder this time, and a voice called out from the porch. "Child Protective Services, open the door."